Live on Facebook, 105.9 FM, joined live with Heisman and Alabama for also does In My Own Words podcast. And I know we're going to have a little bit of feedback in the background because he just flew in to cover the Rose Bowl. Steven, how are you?
Doing good, Zach. Doing well. The flight was good. Got here in good time. There was a couple of bumps in the road, but doing okay. Doing well, man. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. Are you making it through this COVID year?
I am. Of course, got the mask right here, so
Yep.
we're adjusting. It's crazy how at the start of the year you didn't really think you would have a football season, but lo and behold, all of the athletic directors, presidents, chancellors, football coaches, and players that wanted to make this thing possible, they found a way to make it possible.
Of course. So I'm going to have to lead off there since you kind of led me down that path. Dabo Sweeney said something about Ohio State only playing 6 games and how it's a little unfair to the SEC and the ACC for playing 10, 11, 12 games. What is your take on that? Do you think, in a COVID-riddled season, it is what it is? You kind of got to adjust to the times?
I think so. I mean, you can't really blame those players. I mean, they didn't have that decision to make. It was on the athletic director of Ohio State. It was also on the commissioner of the Big Ten, Kevin Warren, who originally canceled the season, but then because the players like Justin Fields, among others, they got the season back on. So you can't really blame the young men. You can't really blame the student athletes. They kind of had to adjust and deal with what they had to deal with.
No doubt. So one of the people that have been dealing with it the most, especially with an injury right across from him, is Devontae Smith. He steps in to be the number 1 wide receiver. Jalen Waddle goes down. We're all like, okay, that's the end of Alabama's season. How impactful has Devontae Smith been to not only this team, but to his draft status as well?
I mean, he's been amazing, Zach. And I mean, it's crazy to think about. He came in with 5 other receivers, and he's the one that at times was often overlooked. I remember when he first came, I spoke with Cam Sims, and Cam Sims told me, Tay, Devontae Smith's the guy. And I looked at Devontae Smith, I'm like, this guy is soaking wet my size. There's no way he's the guy. Cam Sims said, Steven, you mark my words, Devontae Smith is that guy. And, lo and behold, who would have thought 3 to 4 years later, he is the all-time leading receiver for Alabama in receptions, and not receptions, but receiving yards and touchdowns, and a guy that's a Heisman finalist, a consensus All-American. He has been just tremendous, building off of what he did as a freshman, catching the game-winning touchdown. The next time I see Cam Sims, I owe him a steak because he told me this 3 to 4 years ago.
That's just incredible story. Sometimes, you get in practice with these guys and you just know who has it and who doesn't. So that's just a strong example of how these guys just know each other and their talents very well. As you can see behind me, I'm a big Eagles fan. We're looking for a go-to number 1 wide receiver. And in so many of my Eagles groups, they're trying to decide Chase or Devontae Smith. Obviously, you're going to have a little bit of a biased opinion, but can you kind of tell me what Devontae Smith would bring to a team as a number 1 wide receiver?
I couldn't quite hear that last part. Could you repeat that again, Zach?
No problem. So, obviously, I'm an Eagles fan. A lot of people are discussing whether it should be Jamar Chase from LSU or Devontae Smith from Alabama. Obviously, you're going to be a little biased, but what do you think? Who would be the better option to be a number 1 wide receiver in the NFL?
For some reason, Zach, I'm getting a crazy kind of echo here on my end. I cannot quite hear you at all. I'm so sorry.
No, it's all right.
Okay, now I can hear you. Now I can hear you. Go ahead.
There you go. How do you think Devontae Smith's game will translate to the NFL?
I think it will translate well. You have a lot of people right now that are comparing him to Marvin Harrison of the Indianapolis Colts. I see some Lynn Swann in his game, former Hall of Famer of the Pittsburgh Steelers. There's some Isaac Bruce in his game, a guy that played for the 1999 St. Louis Rams, greatest show on turf. When you watch his route running, his hands, his skill set, his speed, his ability to attack the ball at its highest point, just be a flat-out competitor. There are a lot of guys that he reminds me of. He kind of compares his game to Keenan Allen, Devontae Adams of today's
Mhm.
NFL. Keenan Allen of the LA Chargers and Devontae Adams of the Green Bay Packers. So I do see Smitty's game transitioning over pretty well, or very well, especially with his routes, his concepts, and his just competitive nature.
All right, so I can't remember the last time that we've had three players from the same team be Heisman top 5 candidates. Now you have two as a finalist. Who do you expect to win? And is it crazy to think a wide receiver can win the Heisman?
I mean, Zach, you're literally pulling hairs at this point with the votes between, Mac and Smitty, and both guys have just had unbelievable seasons. I'm so proud of both of these kids. I mean, you couldn't go wrong either way, but we have not had a receiver win the award since Desmond Howard did it from the University back in 1991, and that's been a long time. And you look at the numbers that Smitty has put up, a 1,000-yard receiver, a guy that's got 17 touchdowns on the year. He's got a punt return touchdown to put along with that, a rushing score as well. So 19 total scores. So if you stack up his numbers with Desmond Howard's, really really similar there. I think Smitty even has some categories over Howard at this point. So to me, him getting the AP Associated Press Player of the Year, that's kind of a precursor to, getting that Heisman Memorial Trophy. You couldn't go wrong with either or, but if I had a vote, I would definitely go Devontae Smith just because of his rise year after year after year. And so many times he has not been given his just due credit, but he has taken it this year.
All right, so we haven't spoken in about 4 months. I went back through my archives. It's been 4 months. I went through some of your YouTubes in my own words. And I must say, when we spoke 4 months ago, I owe you an apology because I asked you the question, Mac Jones, Bryce Young. I thought Mac Jones was good, but I thought Bryce Young was going to be special, and he was just going to be that difference maker. Like, Mac Jones can get you to the playoffs, but Bryce Young's going to win you a championship. And I must admit that I was wrong, and you were on the Mac Jones bandwagon from day one, so I owe you an apology. What has he done to take his game from the next level that we saw last year when he filled in for Tua?
Just refusing not to be denied, Zach. I mean, this dude, there's something about this dude. Mac Jones is scrappy. He's hardcore. He's a 3-star. Nobody gave him a chance. He comes in, not a lot of hype, not a lot of attention, but a kid that puts his nose down and says, I'm going to let my game speak for itself. And he truly has let his game speak for itself. You got to give Steve Sarkisian a ton of credit. Coach Saban keeping Sark with the program has been a big help for Mac in terms of the numbers that he's been able to produce. A 3,000-yard passer, the fifth 3,000-yard passer of a Nick Saban era, 3,739 yards, 32 touchdowns, just 4 picks. He's among the top 5 for quarterbacks in every major statistical category, including leading college football for completion percentage, 76.5%, passer rating, 202.3, total QBR and raw QBR. It has been a meteoric rise for Mac Jones. Very few people saw this coming. I saw this kid do his thing, even as a freshman, running the scout team. And I remember he was throwing bombs to Terrell Shavers, and Nick Saban told him, stop throwing it deep all the time. Mac Jones, as a skinny, gangling-looking kid, kept saying, you want me to stop? Tell your defense to come get me then. And at that moment, when you can mouth off on your own head coach and your own head coach takes joy out of it, you can just see confidence oozing in one Mac Jones, but not just the confidence in himself, the confidence his teammates have in him. You talk to the team about Mac Jones, they know the fire. They know what he brings in. They know the work he puts into this table day in and day out. Bryce Young will have his time. Bryce Young will have his opportunity, but I just felt like not having a spring really hurt Bryce. Because if he was to have had spring football and a full summer and a traditional fall camp, maybe he could have truly given Mac a run there. But not having that spring really put Bryce behind the 8 ball. But I feel like he's a guy that will be special once he gets his opportunity this time around. It was just Mac's moment.
Yep. So I have to go back to the Tennessee game where they're all smoking their victory cigars. You see Mac Jones with his shirt off, and I'm like, man, this is Tom Brady 2.0. And I'm not saying talent-wise, and he's going to be the next Tom Brady in the NFL, but just seeing him shirtless, he's like, this is Tom Brady going into the NFL. That's exactly what he reminded me of in that picture.
I mean, you can credit his girlfriend for that. You know, his girlfriend's been giving him the chocolate chip cookies, so he's been piling on some weight there with the chocolate chip cookies. But I mean, a guy that's just really intelligent, really smart, really keyed into what he's supposed to do. And I like the Tom Brady comparison. There were moments in the SEC title game where he looked like Aaron Rodgers drawing guys off sides, with the hard count. So, I mean, I look at the Pittsburgh Steelers would be a great fit for him. The Indianapolis Colts would be a great fit for Mac. I mean, anybody in the middle to bottom portion of that first round that can really use a quarterback could really benefit from taking Mac Jones.
Absolutely. Maybe even Bill Belichick, maybe we do get the second coming of Tom Brady.
I mean, maybe so. I mean, he is in constant conversation with Coach Saban, so maybe Coach Bill, drops a line.
Yep, absolutely. So before we actually get into the game, I must ask you, I do an Eagles podcast with a couple of buddies of mine, and I try to explain what Jalen Hurts not only brings to the locker room, but brings onto the field. And I talk about the intangibles. Nobody knows the intangibles better than you covering Alabama. Can you kind of explain to my buddies out there and maybe other Eagles fans what Jalen Hurts exactly brings as not only a teammate, but a player as well?
I'm going to say this, Zach. Philadelphia is rock hard tough. You guys are the hardest drinking beer out there. Y'all want Rocky Balboa. Y'all want thick skin because Philadelphia, it gets cold up there. It's the city of brotherly love, but it gets cold. And y'all want some thick, tough skinned guys running that quarterback position. It does not get more hardcore than Jalen Hurts. He grew up tough. Grew up in Texas. Texas built guys different. And, his father grew him up tough, didn't baby him, didn't coddle him. He grew him up tough. And, Mr. Varian Hurts even told Jalen when he lost the starting job to Tua Tagovailoa, he didn't baby Jalen then. He said, you're going to have to fix this. You're going to have to put up your big boy pants. You're going to have to fix this. And Jalen Hurts, found a way to have his poetic justice moment there at the end, rescuing the tie to an SEC championship in 2018. But you talk about hard-nosed, tough, get it done by any means necessary. That's the Philadelphia way. That's the Jalen Hurts way. He gets it done in the passing game. He gets it done running the football. He takes no mess. If you listen to his press conferences, he's always saying, we did good, but we left some money on the table. We could have gotten better. We could have did this right. We could have done that right. I'm not satisfied. That's that Nickman mantra, and you can feel it even his press conferences in the NFL with the Eagles, never satisfied, wants to get better and better and better. And to be honest, who better for the Eagles to have than a guy that when you're in a division, when you have the hard, tough Giants, when you have the Cowboys, when you have the Washington football team, when you're in a conference where you got the Rams and you got the Seahawks and you got the Cardinals and you got all of these sort of high-flying teams, what better quarterback to have than somebody to have that tough mindset of, I can take these guys down. I don't care what it takes. I can bring these guys down. And Jalen Hurts has that type of mindset, and he carries it with his play. And you can already see the teammates around him, the Alshon Jeffries, the Jalen Ragers, the Miles Sanders. These guys are like, holy cow, like I can get behind the cat like this. And you already see even guys on defense. Fletcher Cox is getting behind him. Brandon Graham is getting behind him. These guys are getting behind Jalen.
Absolutely. And I go back to one of his pressers where he was talking about rat poison, and I instantly laughed because I knew exactly what he was talking about. And you could just hear them going, what's rat poison? Can you please explain? And it's like, if you don't know what rat poison is, then you're not here for this job. And it was just an absolutely, touching moment to hear him go back to his Saban days and kind of come full circle with that. Now let's move on to the Rose Bowl game because that's what I brought you here for. That's what we're going to get into. So Notre Dame of the past history is telling me this is going to be an absolute blowout, a hammer of a game, and get your drinking starting early because you're not going to miss much. What can you tell me about this game? What do you expect? And I hear the defense already talking smack that they're going to stop Najee Harris, and I don't see that happening.
It's going to be a trench warfare. It's going to be a trench warfare. There are some similarities between this Notre Dame team and the Irish team that faced Alabama in the 2013 BCS title game, but there are also some differences. One of the biggest differences is Notre Dame has a better quarterback now than it did then. No offense to Everett Golson. He was a great mobile player, but not the best passer. When you look at Ian Book, he can throw the football. He can get the football. He can distribute the ball down the field. This was a 3,000-yard passer just a season ago, and a guy this year, 15 touchdowns, just 2 picks, does a great job taking care of the football and running this offense. Now, some of the differences, some of the similarities, number one, Notre Dame does not quite have that guy that can stretch the field vertically. In the 2013 BCS title game, the one guy it had was the tight end, Tyler Eifert. And all Alabama did was put DeMarcus Milner on him, and that kind of shut everything down. Eifert only 6 catches for 61 yards. This time around, the Irish do have 5 to 6 guys that total at least 20 catches, with Javon McKinley leading the group, 40 catches for 600-plus yards and 5 touchdowns. But they don't have that guy that can scare you vertically, that can take the top off your secondary and really, truly scare you. So that, and then on top of that, of course, Notre Dame has already talked about all week, the goal for them is going to be to run the football, to play ball control, to control time of possession, to keep that Alabama offense on the sideline as much as it possibly can. Now, can it do that remains to be seen, because I feel like the biggest thing in this game, Zach, is going to be the opening coin toss. Whoever wins this coin toss will tell the tape. Because if Notre Dame wins the coin toss, they're going to look to take clock, kill clock, run the football, keep Alabama on the sideline as much as it can while it looks to score the football. If Bama wins the coin toss, they're going to look to get up quick on Notre Dame and put those points on the board to take Brian Kelly out of his element and force him to win this game with Ian Book. They don't want to get into a shootout with Alabama. They don't want Ian Book to be throwing the ball. They want to run the football, control the pace of the game. So whoever wins this coin toss, Zach, it'll play a role.
Now, how much pressure is on this Alabama defense? Normally, it's all defense wins championships. But even Saban has changed his tune, where he's like, now you need to go outscore everybody. So how much pressure is on this Alabama defense to keep up with this Alabama offense in their way to a national title?
There is some pressure there. I mean, you're looking at especially defensive coordinator Pete Golding. It's a mixed bag of emotions when you talk Coach Golding. He hasn't had a terrible year, but there are moments where fans look at him and go, this is not the same defense that we had with Kirby Smart. It's not the same that we had in Jeremy Pruitt. Like, when are we going to get back to having those big-time Bama defenses? So, I mean, there is some pressure on Coach Golding to go out there, shut this Notre Dame team in the mouth, and keep it moving. But at the same time, I feel like this Bama defense knows what it's capable of doing. In the last 5 to 6, 7 games or so, 21 sacks from this defensive front. So the pass rush has been there, and it's starting to peak at the right time. Will Anderson, a freshman, has 7 sacks. Christian Barmore has 6 sacks. Christopher Allen has 6 sacks. So you're starting to see the pass rush. You got a freshman in Malachi Moore who leads the team with 3 interceptions. The secondary has done pretty decently here, for the most part. So in this game, it's all about how much can you take away what Notre Dame does best and force them to play with their offhand and make Ian Book read the coverages, get pressure to Ian Book, and force him to have the game of his life. That's what the test is. Can you force Book to have the game of his life to beat you with his offhand?
Is there any way you see this game going completely different than what we normally see? Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, all they do is throw the ball. They do it very well. Going against the Bills, they decided to flip the script knowing that people are going to run against them. They decided to run the heck out of the ball. Is there any way we're going to see that? All right, Najee, we're giving you the ball 25, 30 times. They said they can stop you. Now they need to go prove it. We're going to flip the script, and then we're going to hit off the play action when it's there.
Steve Sarkisian is going to want to mix things up, Zach. He's going to want to mix things up. He's going to have Najee Harris touch the football, no doubt about that. But I feel like he's also going to mix things up. He's going to take some shots downfield with Mac Jones, with Devontae Smith, with John Mechie, who has been growing. He's been explosive this year. Jamil Billingsley, a tight end, the sophomore, he's popped in some moments this year as well. So Alabama will take some shots, but they'll also mix it up. That first quarter will kind of be a feel-it-out quarter. How does Notre Dame handle Najee Harris? Are they able to limit him? Are they able to get some penetration through this offensive front? Should it be able to have success with that? Then we can see more of the passing game early on. But if this offensive line is able to blow Notre Dame off the ball, look forward to seeing a lot of Najee first, and then you can look back to Mac Jones and this receiver core. But make no mistake about it, Steve Sarkisian will mix it up regardless.
All right, so you talked about that offensive line trying to blow off from the very beginning. So do you think their center, they lost their all-pro center, do you think they're going to have an adamant fill-in? How are they feeling confident-wise with their new center?
They're very confident with Chris Owens. Now, he's not Landon Dickerson. Landon Dickerson's a guy that has brought the nastiness, the toughness, the grit, the leadership to this offensive line. He was named a permanent team captain for a reason. He was given the Alabama Iron Man Award for a reason. He's a consensus All-American for a reason. He's a Jacobs Blocking Award trophy winner for a reason. The guy's a big-time deal. And even though he's only been at Alabama for 2 years, it feels like he's been here for 4 because of how quickly he was able to adjust to everything and bring that type of skill set to this front line. But Chris Owens has played a lot of football. I mean, he's played at guard, he's played at center, he's played at tackle, he's played at tight end, he's played everywhere on this offensive line. And Nick Saban talked about it. We are very confident in Chris Owens. Mac Jones has talked about it. The communication between Mac Jones and Chris Owens, it's like this. I mean, the communication is locked, loaded, centered. They love what they have in Owens. Miller Forrestall at tight end spoke on Tuesday. He said, look, guys, he's been here. He's played football. He's an older guy. We trust him. We know what he's capable of. He's ready to rock and roll. Let's go win a football game. So everybody is sold on what Chris Owens can bring this team at center.
Absolutely. Steve Sarkisian, how important has he been to this team, and what's keeping him from going to get a head coaching job? Is there like something underneath the table where Nick Saban, and I don't want Nick Saban to retire anytime soon, but it feels like it's one of those Bill Belichick, Josh McDaniels type of situation where Steve Sarkisian might slide in the next 5 years or so.
Well, Alabama is renegotiating his contract, Zach. He wants to stay here. He's talked about how he values Nick Saban, how he respects the head football coach for giving him another opportunity, not just to work under him, but to work around these players. I mean, he's been through a lot in his life, Sarkisian has, but he's learned from it. He's learned from it. He's grown it. It's made him better. And you talk about the offense he's been able to put together this year. 49.7 points per game, the most of the Saban era. 549.3 yards offensively per game, the most of the Saban era. A team that's got 3 of a top 5, Heisman finalists right here, including 2 in Smitty and Mac Jones battling for the award. So you can't say enough about the imprint that Sark has had on this program, even in recruiting. With this recruiting class for 2021, the best offensive line class in the country. He's brought in 4 talented receivers. Alabama didn't even need a running back, but Sarkisian gets a 5-star running back. So, I mean, it gets a 4-star dual-threat quarterback in Jalen Milroe from the Texas area. So Sark's imprint in recruiting, his imprint in coaching, the fans love him here. Coach Saban loves him at Alabama, and Sark has stated that he feels like his time for the Crimson Tide not quite over yet, as he's definitely reconstructing that contract.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I have noticed is that we seem to be getting the same 4, 5, 6 teams in the college football playoffs. You just talked about it. They've they're about to bring in another 5-star, another 4-star, another excellent recruiting class. And that seems like the top is always getting richer. Do you see any way that they start to expand the playoffs because the rich are getting richer, and it just seems like a turnstile of the top 6 teams over and over again?
That is going to be a question that I love to ask Bill Hancock, the executive director of the CFP. I mean, because if you look at it, there were so many teams this year that could have gotten in. I mean, what a year for Coastal Carolina. What a
Absolutely.
year for Cincinnati. I mean, there were a lot of really good, group of 5 teams and teams outside of the Power 5 that could have gotten in, that have had really strong seasons, and they continue to make their case of, if we're talking about the best teams, give us a shot, give us an opportunity. So I
Hmm.
would love to see Bill Hancock really tackle this question. We've heard from other chair members of the CFP, but I would
Yep.
like to see, the executive director, the head guy, Bill Hancock, get in front of this podium and actually address the situation to see, can we get maybe an expansion to 6 teams? We don't have to go 8 teams automatically, but let's just try 6 teams first to see if we
Yep.
can get 2 extra teams in to really tell, okay, we're going to give these group of 5 teams an opportunity to really show that they belong here.
Absolutely. I think this would have been the perfect year with the COVID riddled years. Some teams played 6 games, some played 10 games. It would have been a way to expand and kind of get that little bit of an example of how it possibly could go down in the near future. This is a 1-year experiment. Maybe we work on it down the road. This would have been the perfect year. I feel like they kind of blew it right there a little bit, but I'm not going to say anything because Alabama's in, Clemson's in, Ohio State's in, and Notre Dame's in, the 4 premier colleges that you want to see and have all eyes on. Of course, that's who's in, and that's who you're going to want to watch.
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. It's going to be fun. You got the 4 money grabbers here in the playoff. You got the 4 teams that bring the revenue, that bring the TV contracts, that bring the ratings. So it's going to be fun to see this all go down.
All right, so now I know you thought I was going to let you go without giving a score prediction, but I can't do that to you, Steven. So you got to lay it on me.
Okay, so I thought about the score prediction I have for the Georgia game, the 17 points, but not the same final score. I'm going to go with Alabama. I'm going to go with this one. I've been wrestling with this one, but I'm going to go with Bama 31 and Notre Dame 14. Still 17, but 31-14 Bama.
All right, I like it. Now, who would you want to see Bama face more in the national championship, Clemson or Ohio State?
Well, Nick Saban owes both teams a loss in here, but I mean, to me, I would like to see Alabama take on Clemson. I mean, the 2019 title game off the 18 season, Tua Tagovailoa coming off some injuries there, and you face a freshman in Trevor Lawrence who really carved up, Alabama's defensive group. So, would like to see Alabama take on Clemson.
Awesome. Stephen M. Smith, touchdown Alabama. I appreciate the time. Safe travels home after the game. And like always, roll tide, go Bama.
Appreciate it, Zach. Thank you, guys.
No problem.